Hello, fourth graders, and happy Friday! Oh, that's the wrong thing. Confetti! Yay! All right, Friday, Friday, Friday. Okay, guys, we started off with math, continuing to talk about how we convert customary units of length. And so we started our lesson on this page 528. And we were going over a couple of these problems here, and the biggest thing we put it in our notebook. So let me go over that first. We had some steps here. So first, you need to find the units. So in this one, we saw that we were talking about yards and feet. So those were our two units. Second, we need to find the conversion. What equals what? So here, 1 yard, since we're using yards, and feet, I went and I found in my reference materials. Those of you at home, we put this in our notebook. So these reference materials tell me that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. Then we need to know, are we going from a larger unit to a smaller unit or a smaller unit to a bigger unit? Because that's going to help me know whether I'm multiplying or dividing. So this one, we're going from a big unit to a small unit, so we're going to multiply. And so we used a chart to help us. And so when we had 6 yards, we multiplied that by 3 and found that that would be the same as 18 feet. On number 11, oh, and here, let me put this, make sure you pause the video and make sure you put this into your notebook. Then on 11, it says, which statement about 8 yards and 25 feet is true? So here, again, step 1, we're finding the unit. We're dealing with yards and feet. So we went and we didn't write it twice. I just drew a little arrow because it was the same yards and feet. So again, you need to know what equals what. You need to know that we're going from a big unit to a small unit. And so we made the table a little bit longer and just continued it. If we have 8 yards and we multiply that by using that rule times 3, then we found that that was equal to those 24 feet right there. So when we went and we said, okay, if 8 yards is equal to 24 feet, 25, everywhere that we put 8 yards, we crossed it out and put 24 feet. So 25 feet is not equal to 24 feet. 25 feet is not less than 24 feet. 24 feet is not greater. 24 feet is less than 25 feet. So that was the one that was the true statement. So once we put those, instead of saying 8 yards, when we're comparing feet and feet together, it was easy to see what was the answer, or not the, which one was the true statement, and therefore our answer. So that made it easier to fill that in. All right, number 12. Here's a multi-step problem. So it says Carla has 3 feet of ribbon. She needs 38 inches of a ribbon to wrap a present. How many more inches of ribbon is she going to need in order to wrap this present of hers? And so here we're working with feet and inches. So again, step 1, find those units that you're working with. Step 2, write down that conversion. We know that 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. Here we're going from a big unit to a small because a foot is bigger than an inch. So therefore we're going to multiply. So we're going to take this 12, multiply it by the 3 feet, and that's going to tell us how many inches we have. So if we have, if 3 feet is the same as 36 inches and she needs 38, we're going to need 2 more inches before she has enough to wrap her present. So we needed to subtract what she has from what she needs. All right, this last one on 13, it says Jim is putting carpet in his basement. The length of his basement is 12 yards. how many feet is the length of his basement. So here you're finding the units, step 1, feet and yards, writing down the conversion. 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. A yard is bigger than a foot, so we're going from big to small, so we're going to multiply. Then we're going to take what it gave us, so it gave us the 12 yards. We're going to take that 3 feet and multiply it by that 3 here. 12 times 3 is 36, just like we did before up here. And so he needs 36 feet for the length of his basement. So again, find the units. If you just follow this, find the units, find the conversion, what equals what, find whether you're going from a large unit to a small unit, and then solve. Now, one of the problems in your independent work on page 530, it has an example of where you're going from yards to inches. And so we talked about that as well before we got started on our assignment. And so if you notice in the reference, when you're looking at this reference chart, it only says a yard is equal to 3 feet and a foot is equal to 12 inches. There's nothing on here that gives us information about going from straight to from a yard to an inch. And so we had to think about it a little differently. So we know that 1 yard is equal to 3 feet. That is on the chart. And then we know that 12 inches is in 1 foot. So if I want to know how many inches are in a yard, I can just say, okay, I could draw this out and say, okay, if 1 foot equals 12 inches and there's 3 feet in a yard, then 12 plus 12 plus 12 gives me that 36. So therefore, 36 inches is in 1 yard. All right. Let me close this. We must be getting close to the end of the year because my notebook is about to be all filled up. All right. So your independent work is on page 530. And so that is in Seesaw. So go to, where am I? Seesaw. And go down to your math, week 31 math. And click on here. All right, so you have, let's see, Friday, page 530. You're doing questions 10 through 15. Go ahead, upload your work here, and then double check, make sure you have all of these pages filled in. And once everything's, you've checked it over, hit that green check mark and go ahead and turn in that assignment, okay? All right, next up, we read chapter 10. All right, so go here to book club. Chapter 10, read aloud Fudgemania is right here. So you can click this and the link here. Why did I make this other assignment? Whoops. All right, I didn't mean to do that. Anyways, it's right here. So read, if you missed, listen to that. And then in Seesaw, we have finished up section 3 and section 2 of Fudgemania. So these were the independent work that can be turned in. Together, we went over book study Fudgemania. So let me open up my draft here. All right, so the first thing we started talking about is conflict. So there's lots of conflict in this story. So we talked about a few examples. And so these are the different types. So you can have conflict, which is, not necessarily all, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good to have conflict in a story. It's what helps make it interesting and exciting, and you're kind of waiting to see what comes next. And it helps to move the story along. And like it says, it's an important part of the story. And usually our characters, we see them show us how they kind of work through that conflict. So it's good examples of what we can do in our own life. And so there's different kinds. You can have man versus man, where this is two characters in the story are struggling against each other. Man versus nature, you're struggling. You've got a character and they're struggling against a force of nature, such as with an animal or maybe the weather, something out of nature. And then society, man versus society. So one of your characters is struggling with society, such as a company, religion, school. And then you've got an example of man versus self, where you're struggling internally, like overcoming your own weaknesses. And so down here, we wrote down three of them. So we said one example of conflict is when Peter's struggling with being on vacation with Sheila. So this is a man versus man because this is a conflict between two characters. Then we said when Peter's struggling to come up with the reason why the Tubmans and Hatchers are sharing a house together. So you you read about Peter and he's struggling. He's not talking to his mom or his dad or to anybody. This is just with himself. You hear him struggling, like, how am I going to explain to him? He's thinking this. How am I going to explain to my best friend that, we're on vacation with Sheila. She's right next door. Do I need to make up this, poison gas story with the toilets and just, silly stuff like that to where I can, get him to understand why she's so close. And so he's struggling with that with himself. So that's a man versus self type of conflict. And then Fudge, of course, Fudge is a fun one. He's not a bad kid. He's just he's a 5-year-old. So he is busy. He has lots of questions about everything. He kind of sees the world a little bit differently than everybody else. And he um, he just always seems to be kind of getting in, not necessarily trouble, but just things tend to follow Fudge, like letting Uncle Feather out, and just asking a million questions a day, and just things like that. So character versus character, so man versus man. Fudge definitely pushes Peter's buttons and kind of drives him a little bonkers, just like a younger brother loves to do, or sister. All right, on page 6, we skipped that, we skipped this, we went down to page 8, and we were talking about cause and effect. So, cause and effect, you have something that happens, and that's the cause, it's the action, and then the result of that action or the development is the effect. So, one, we talked about when Uncle Feather escapes, the effect was that the thing that followed that was everybody had to go on a search party to find him. Cause, or here we started with the effect. We said Peter feels like he is dizzy and floating in the air. The cause of that was that he met Isabel, the new library assistant. And then we started with the cause with Fudge jumping on his bed. He ends up getting smashed in between, and it's like a fudge sandwich between the bed from him jumping on it and not listening to his mom. So, cause effect, something happened. So, here's our action. This is the result of that action. So, because this happened, um, or this is what happened, and then this followed after. All right, so click draft because we still have some work to do on that. So that's the only one that can stay in your activities. Fudgemania Section 3 and Fudgemania Section 2, both of those should be turned in. All right, after reading, we went to writing, and we went here to the daily writing review. Whoop. All right, so all the way down at the end on page 9, it says, did you know, this is a story about how Labor Day got started. So did you know, or why we have Labor Day, did you know that in the 1800s, people in the USA used to work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? If you do the math, that is 84 hours. Today, most people work 8 to 9 hours a day, 5 days a week. So why is this different than it was over 100 years ago? This is because there were people that marched and fought for the rights of workers. On September 5th, 1882, a group of 10,000 laborers met and marched in New York City, representing the thousands of men and women who worked. My favorite place to work is at a lemonade stand. Today, we celebrate this day every year, but you know it as Labor Day. The first state to make Labor Day an actual holiday was Oregon, and every state has done so since. Today, we celebrate it as the end of summer season, but we should never forget the men and women who fought for the rights of all workers. All right, so we did some editing and revising here. So it says, what's the best way to edit sentence number 4? So we read sentence number 4 and then went through the examples and talked about how they were different and then made our choice. Number 2 says, what's wrong with sentence 9? So again, we read it. Here you've got things, we talked about proper nouns. So because this is a holiday, we talked about why it should in fact be capitalized. And it's not just labor, but make sure Labor Day is the name of the holiday, so both of them need to be capitalized. We talked about how we could check the spelling in the dictionary. And then for number 2, and then number 3, this you probably heard this one in sentence 7 stand out kind of like a sore thumb. Everything is about Labor Day and work. So when it says my favorite place to work is at a lemonade stand, yes, that is talking about work, but not what we're talking about. So it's like it's on topic, but not really. So this one here was it didn't have to do with the main idea, so it needs to be removed. We want to stay on topic with what the main idea, the main point of this is, which is about Labor Day, not just a random, little insert here about what your favorite is. Name one adjective that is in sentence 7. So go look at sentence, where is it? 7. My favorite place to work is at a lemonade stand. So which one of those is describing that now? And then here we talked about the homophone bear, and we made a correction with that sentence. Your choice today, so tell me anything. You can write a story, write me a letter, whatever you would like, your choice. So free writes. All right. When you are done, please go back and make sure all 10 pages have answers and your quick write. So each one. Then you can turn that in. Then we went to lunch and recess. We came back and we did science. Science is in Seesaw. All right, so today we were talking about the ability to support plant life, and we went to page 8, and we made 4 boxes that are one color, and we named them gravel, sand, topsoil, and clay. And then we made this 5th box, and we titled it My Perfect Soil. And so with these 4 on the left here, I wanted you, so we planted rye seeds, and we've got those all in their little containers with the different soils with the seeds planted. They're all ready to go, so they're out doing their thing, soaking up their sunshine, and hopefully we'll see some growth soon. And so I wanted you to make some predictions. So I want you to think about, what do you know about these particle sizes? What do you know about what plants need? Put it all together. What do you think is going to happen? So for example, if you think gravel is going to give our plant exactly what it needs, then I want you to get your green, and I want you to show, okay, what's that plant when it starts growing? What's it going to look like? So make a prediction. Maybe you think sand is not quite going to be as good. Maybe just little growth. Maybe you don't think topsoil is going to grow, just, I don't know, maybe you think it's not going to grow at all. Maybe we got some brown that's kind of dead. I don't know, whatever you think. So I want you to make some predictions. All right, don't go with mine. Those were not very good predictions. So make some predictions about what you think, but don't just do it random. Think back to those particle sizes. So these notes that we took about particles and why it's important that we know about those and what that means for retaining water and so on. And fill that in. So each one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to see 4 examples of some ryegrass planted in each of these and what you think it's going to look like with that type of soil in the container. Then I wanted you to create your own perfect soil. So for mine, I put some gravel on the bottom, some topsoil. We talked about how moss. Um, we brought the moss back out, and we were talking about how it's not a soil, but it's really good for helping um, um, soil erosion, or to keep it from the soil from eroding. And so remember from our unit where we were talking about weathering, erosion, and deposition, we talked about how we watched this video a while back, and it was about a farmer, and she was talking about how her farm struggles with soil erosion. She obviously needs soil to grow her crop, and so if the soil is eroding away, meaning it's erosion is when it's moving from one place to another by wind, water, ice, gravity, things like that. Um, if it's leaving her farm or leaving her land, that's not a good thing because then she has to replace it, or then she doesn't have, good rich soil to grow her crop. So she had to do things in order to protect. So we talked about how, growing plants. She had some kind of like special net type things that she put down, and moss also is something that protects against soil erosion. So we were talking about that, and so we made our perfect soil. And if so think about, you can have just one of these. You could have a what, I spelled combination horribly wrong. Where's my combination? All right, so you are recording your thoughts about your perfect soil. So again, you can make a combination. You can use just one, however you want to do it, but draw me a little picture, and please label. I'm not necessarily going to know, what your drawing is, so please label and make sure that's there. Then go back pages 1 through 8 here, make sure everything is done. We took lots of notes this week. I wanted you to upload those and show that you are following along with that. So please make sure everything has that there. And starting from page 1 all the way down to 8, before you turn it in, make sure everything is added. Okay? All right, that was science. Then for social studies, you guys know the drill. Week 31 social studies. Today we had to look at a chart. There was not a link here. So we were reading this chart. So this is talking about oil prices. So you can put this in present mode and make it nice and big. You've got all your years down here at the bottom, and then you've got your prices per barrel here. So when you look at the questions and it says, in what year did crude oil sell for the least amount, you're going to go back here and you're going to say, okay, where's the smallest number? All right, 10. And then you're going to look straight down and you're going to look at that year that was there. So look at the prices, look at the dates, and that'll help you when you're solving 10 through 14. Then you have on your agenda, if you go all the way to the bottom, you can click this here as well. And this has to do with some more line graphs like we just looked at. Alrighty. Then about 1:20, those that had finished up their work and we're all caught up for the week enjoyed Fun Friday. So if that was not you, that's okay, but please try to get your work in as soon as you can. And then the Fun Friday link is here. So there's all kinds of webcams from different animals and zoos around the country, some educational games and things like that that you can go and visit here. Some would you rather, maybe you could grab somebody in your family and play some would you rather at the dinner table or something like that to have some fun Friday time. All right. So have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all next Monday. Bye, guys.